Hello family, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, you are in for a treat today. This story is a roller coaster. Before we start, do me a huge favor. Smash that subscribe button and hit the like button right now. This story is so powerful, you will want to share it with everyone you know. Make sure you stick to the very end because the twist, it will blow your mind. Let's get into it. Akin Adebayo was a man who built things that lasted. At 42 years old, his hands, once rough with cement and grease, now held the blueprints for some of Lagos's most impressive buildings. He was the owner of Adebayo Legacy Constructions, a name that was respected from Lekki to Abuja. He had built his empire with sweat, patience, and a quiet, unshakable determination. But the most important structure in his life was not made of concrete and steel. It was the family he had built with his wife, Chinwe. They met at the University of Lagos 20 years ago. Chinwe was the beautiful, sophisticated daughter of a well-known chief from Victoria Island. Her family name carried weight, but by the time Akin came into the picture, their financial power had faded, leaving behind only a glittering reputation. Chinwe didn't care about the money. She was drawn to Akin's solidness, his reliability. He was a man who knew how to make things stand strong, a building, a promise, a future. In turn, he was captivated by her. She made a hard-working boy from the mainland feel like he was the king of the world. From the outside, their life was a picture of perfect success. A stunning duplex in the Ikeja GRA, complete with manicured garden. 2 sleek, expensive SUVs parked in the driveway. Chinwe, always flawlessly dressed, was a star at church events and the head of the PTA committee. Their son, Tunde, now 17, was their pride and joy. A smart, handsome boy who was already spending his school holidays learning the ropes at his father's company. He was the living proof of their love story. But recently, Akin started to feel cracks in the foundation of his perfect life. It began as a faint whisper in his mind, a feeling that something was off. Then it grew louder, like the creak of a heavy beam about to give way. Chinwe was different. The light in her eyes when she looked at him had dimmed. She started taking long unexplained errands. She would return home with new expensive Asoebi outfits and gold jewelry, claiming she found them at an unbelievable clearance sale in Balogun Market. Other times, she came back empty-handed but with a tiredness that felt heavy and secretive. The warm, familiar touch that he had known for 2 decades now felt as cold and distant as a harmattan wind. Akin tried to brush it off. He was drowning in work, managing a massive new construction project in Port Harcourt. There were 14-hour days, endless problems with importing materials, and the stress of overseeing hundreds of workers. He told himself they were both exhausted. That was the story he stuck to when Chinwe forgot to pick Tunde up from football practice, or when she claimed a sudden headache forced her to miss the anniversary dinner. But the silence that now lived between them in their king-size bed at night was a truth he could no longer ignore. Then 6 months ago, Chinwe told him she was pregnant. Akin stared at her, a whirlwind of emotions crashing inside him. First, utter shock. Then a burst of pure, unadulterated joy. And finally, a slow, creeping confusion that settled deep in his gut. After years of heartbreaking miscarriages and one failed, painful adoption process, they had both made peace with the fact that Tunde would be their only child. They had grieved and moved on. But this pregnancy was different. Chinwe wasn't glowing like she had been with Tunde. She didn't gently cradle her growing belly or leave baby name books on her bedside table. She moved through the days like a ghost. A pale imitation of the vibrant woman she had married. Their family doctor, the elderly and respected Dr. Ibrahim, who had cared for their Adebayo family since Tunde was a baby, took one look at Chinwe's initial blood test and insisted on very close, careful monitoring. Akin, preoccupied with work, didn't think much of it. Not until he found himself sitting alone on a hard plastic chair in the bright, sterile hallway of the high-end hospital in Ikeja. He looked down at his own calloused hands, resting on his knees, and wondered why his wife seemed more filled with fear than with joy at the prospect of a new baby. Something was deeply wrong. His spirit was deeply troubled. Inside the private examination room, Chinwe lay perfectly still on the bed, the white paper sheet crinkling beneath her with every slight movement. Dr. Ibrahim spread the cold, clear gel over her stomach. The ultrasound wand moved in slow, methodical lines, but Chinwe barely felt its pressure. A terror had taken root deep inside her, lodged beneath her ribs, and was squeezing tighter with every passing second. She couldn't bring herself to look at the monitor on the wall. She was too afraid of what she might see, or worse, what the measurement would reveal. Dr. Ibrahim's silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity. She searched for his kind, wrinkled face for any clue, but his expression was unreadable, more focused and serious than she had ever seen it. "Doctor, is everything okay?" she finally whispered, her voice raspy and weak. Dr. Ibrahim didn't answer immediately. He was calculating, measuring, and double-checking the numbers on the screen. He wasn't just assessing the baby's growth, he was uncovering the real timeline. Chinwe's mind raced back to 8 months ago when she met him, Chike Obi, a flashy, charismatic property developer from Abuja. He was 8 years younger than she was, dressed in the most expensive designer agbada, and carried himself with a dangerous, irresistible confidence. They met at a charity auction for a new museum, and from the moment his fingers lightly brushed the small of her back, she felt a thrill she hadn't experienced in years. She felt desired, seen, and alive. She didn't plan for it to happen, but after years of feeling like mere decoration in her own life, a trophy wife on a shelf, she let herself be swept into an affair she knew could destroy everything. 2 innocent lunches quickly turned into secret dinners, which then became afternoons in hotel suites in Abeoku. The guilt was a heavy stone in her purse, but it was not yet heavy enough to make her stop. Not until she missed her period. She had panicked, of course. The timing was a disaster. She and Akin had not been intimate for nearly a month before her first encounter with Chike. By the time she confirmed the pregnancy, there was no way to forge the date without raising suspicion. But she tried anyway. She lied to Akin. She lied to herself. And now Dr. Ibrahim's prolonged silence was screaming that her lie had expired. He finally removed the wand and carefully wiped the gel from her skin. Then he met her gaze. "Chinwe," he said slowly, his voice softer than she had ever heard it. "The baby is healthy." A wave of relief washed over her, so powerful it made her dizzy. "But," he continued, and her heart plummeted back down. "The measurements, they do not match the gestational age you gave us. Not even close. You said conception occurred approximately 24 weeks ago. Based on these scans, it is closer to 28, possibly 29 weeks. 3 weeks, the difference screamed in her head. 3 weeks was a chasm she could not cross. She opened her mouth to protest, to say she must have mixed up the dates, but no sound came out. What could she possibly say? How could she explain the phantom of her affair that had just materialized in the ultrasound room? Dr. Ibrahim sighed deeply, a sound filled with decades of wisdom and a little sadness. "Chinwe," he said, his voice softer than she had ever heard it. "I've been your doctor for a very long time. I delivered Tunde. I know this family. Your husband, he is a good man." "I know," she murmured, her eyes burning with unshed tears of shame. "You are doing this in front of me, Dr. Ibrahim." "He deserves to know the truth," Dr. Ibrahim said, not as a question, but as a statement of fact. Panic seized her. "No, please, doctor, you can't tell him. Not like this. Let me find the right time. I will tell him myself, I promise." Dr. Ibrahim studied her face, seeing the raw fear. He was a man of principle, but he was also a man of compassion. He had seen many family tragedies in his time. "Chinwe," he said, his voice firm, "this is not something you can hide forever. The truth has a way of coming out. But I will give you 1 week. 1 week to find the courage and tell him yourself. If you do not, I will be forced to speak with him. I cannot in good conscience let him believe a lie of this magnitude." Chinwe nodded frantically, a shaky sense of reprieve filling her. "Thank you, doctor. Thank you. I will tell him, I promise." She left the examination room, her legs feeling like water. Akin was waiting in the hallway looking up from his phone. "How did it go?" he asked, voice warm with concern. "Is the baby all right?" Yes, Chinwe said, forcing a bright, brittle smile onto her face. "The doctor said everything is perfect. The baby is growing very well." "That's my good news. Let's go and celebrate. I'll take you to that new restaurant you like." As they walked out of the hospital, Chinwe felt a surge of triumph. She had done it. She had saved herself for now. She had a 1-week grace period. She could figure this out. Maybe she could convince Akin that the dates were just wrong. Maybe she could make it work. She had no idea that Akin Adebayo was the greatest architect of consequences she would ever meet. What Chinwe did not see was the slight, almost imperceptible nod that Dr. Ibrahim gave to Akin from down the hallway. A silent communication between two men who respected each other deeply. And what she did not know was that before this appointment, Akin, trusting his builder's instinct that something was structurally unsound in his marriage, had already privately spoken to the old doctor. Dr. Ibrahim, bound by patient confidentiality not to reveal details to Akin, had nonetheless been able to listen. And when Akin, his voice heavy with worry, said, "Doc, I feel a deep crack in my home. If you see anything at all that is not right with my wife for this pregnancy, you can't tell me directly, but can you just give me a..."
Dr. Ibrahim, looking at the honest pain in Akin's eyes, had reluctantly agreed. The nod was a sign. It was a yes. Something was very wrong. The car ride home was filled with Chinwe's nervous chatter and Akin's quiet responses. He was no longer listening to her words. He was listening to the fear hiding beneath them. The trap had been set, and she had walked right into it, believing she was the one in control. That night, after Chinwe had gone to bed, Akin sat alone in his home office, the door closed. The cheerful family photos on the walls now felt like a mockery. He opened his laptop, his heart a cold heart spun in his chest. He did not need to scream or break things. He was the demolition now, and he would take this lie apart with the same precision he used to build his towers. He started with a name. He didn't have it yet, but he would find it. He had a discreet and efficient private investigator named Gabriel the very next morning. Find everything was all Akin said. For the next week, Akin played his part perfectly. He was the doting, excited husband. He rubbed Chinwe's feet, talked about converting the guest room into a nursery, and praised her strength. He watched as he relaxed, as the initial fear in her eyes was replaced with a confident gleam. She thought she was so clever. She thought he was a fool. Meanwhile, Gabriel was working. 3 days later, Akin had a name, Chike Obi. And with the name came a flood of evidence. Photos of Chinwe and Chike at a discreet hotel in Abeokuta. Timestamps that matched her errand days, receipts from expensive restaurants, and the hotel itself paid for from their joint account. Akin discovered that Chike Obi was a sleek, fast-talking big boy from Abuja with a portfolio of shady deals and a love for the high life. He was also, predictably, married to a beautiful woman named Neoma, and they had 2 young daughters. The pieces were falling into place, but Akin wasn't ready to confront Chinwe. Not yet. Let her enjoy her false sense of security. Let her believe her secret was safe. He began to build his case against Chike Obi. He arranged a business meeting, presenting himself as a potential partner for a new estate. Chike, arrogant and eager to align himself with a man of Akin's stature, took the bait. Over an expensive lunch, Chike bragged, his words secretly recorded by Akin, about bribing government officials, ignoring zoning laws, and cooking his company's books. He was sloppy, entitled, and ripe for a fall. Akin, with Gabriel's help, then visited Chike's construction site, documenting a catalogue of safety violations, environmental breaches, and evidence of massive tax fraud. While Akin was meticulously assembling the weapons for his revenge, Chinwe was at home, planning her future with Chike. She started subtly testing the waters. "Akin, what would you think about maybe moving to a smaller house after the baby comes? This place is so big to maintain." Akin looked at her, his expression neutral. "This is our home, Chinwe. We built it together. Why would we leave?" "Oh, no reason," she said quickly, backtracking. "I was just thinking out loud." He knew exactly what she was doing. She was already mentally packing her bags, planning her exit with her lover, likely thinking she would take a large portion of his wealth with her. She had no idea that the man she was betraying was already 10 steps ahead of her. The 1-week deadline from Dr. Ibrahim came and went. Chinwe, of course, said nothing to Akin. She had convinced herself she didn't have to. She was in control. Akin knew that any last shred of mercy was gone. The demolition was ready to begin. He chose a Monday morning. The air was thick with the promise of rain. He woke up before dawn, prayed with a calm heart, and dressed with the focus of a general going to war. He made 3 phone calls. The first was to the EFCC, delivering a digital package of evidence against Chike Obi, the audio recordings, the photos of violations, and the financial records. The second was to the FIIS, detailing Chike's tax evasion schemes. The third was to Neoma Obi. The conversation was brief and devastating. Mrs. Obi, my name is Aki Adebayo. Your husband is having an affair with my wife, Chingwe. She is pregnant with his child. I have indomitable proof. The silence on the other end was profound. Then a quiet, steely voice replied, I see. Thank you for telling me. I know what I must do. That afternoon, the storm broke. EFCC officials swarmed Chike's office in Abuja, cutting away files and computers as news cameras rolled. The FRS froze all his company and personal accounts. Simultaneously, Neoma Obi, a woman wronged but far from weak, filed for immediate divorce, seeking full custody of her children and a freeze on all marital assets. Chike Obi's world, built on arrogance and fraud, collapsed in a single afternoon. And Chingwe, she was at a high-end spa in Victoria Island, enjoying a prenatal massage, utterly oblivious to the earthquake she was about to walk into. Akin arrived home that evening to find her in the kitchen, humming a happy tune as she stirred a pot of egusi soup. The scene was so normal, so domestic, it was almost laughable. How was your day, my dear? She asked, smiling sweetly. It was incredibly productive, Akin replied, his voice even. He placed his leather briefcase on the table and then slowly and deliberately pulled out a thick brown A4 envelope. Chingwe's face lost all color. Her hands began to shake so violently that the papers rattled. What is this? She stammered, her voice a thin whisper. It's evidence, Chingwe. Evidence of your affair with Chike Obi. Evidence that the child you are carrying is his. Evidence of every lie you have told me for the past 8 months. She looked up at him, her eyes wide with terror and disbelief. You knew? For how long? I knew the moment we walked out of Dr. Ibrahim's office, he said, his gaze never wavering. The doctor gave you a week to tell me the truth yourself. You chose not to. You chose to continue lying to me, to my face, in my own home. The revelation that he had known all along was a physical blow. She staggered back, gripping the edge of the kitchen counter for support. The entire time she thought she was so clever, he had been watching her, studying her, building his case against her. You thought I was a fool, didn't you? Akin continued, stepping closer. You thought I was just a simple, hardworking builder who wouldn't notice his own house falling down. But you forgot, Chingwe. I know how to tear down what is built wrong. I know how to follow a crack until I find the source of the weakness. Akin, please, she screamed, tears streaming down her face. I can explain. He manipulated me. I was confused. Don't, he roared, the first and only time he raised his voice. The sound echoed in the spacious kitchen, silencing her sobs for a moment. Don't insult me further. You made your choices. Every single day you chose to betray me. You chose to betray Tunde, and now I have made my choices. He leaned in close, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper. Chike Obi was arrested by the EFCC today. His accounts are frozen. His wife, Neoma Obi, has filed for divorce and taken his children. His empire of lies is dust. Chingwe's phone was on the table, lit up with a frantic call from Chike, then another, followed by a storm of panic text messages. Chingwe, pick up. They are everywhere. The EFCC is here. My money is gone. Neoma has left me. Answer your phone. She reached a trembling hand for it, but Akin was faster. He picked up the phone, looked at the screen with disdain, and then, without a word, slid it into the sink full of dishwater. The screen flickered and died. You have 1 hour, Akin said, his voice cold and final. Tunde will be home from the library in 1 hour. I want you and your bags out of my house before he arrives. You will not drag my son into your disgrace. And the baby, she wailed, clutching her stomach. What about your child? Akin looked at her and then at her pregnant belly with a profound finality. That, he said, each word dripping with ice, is not my child, and you are no longer my wife. He turned and walked out of the kitchen, leaving her sobbing on the floor, surrounded by the scattered evidence of her own destruction. The life she had so carefully tried to manipulate had just been systematically demolished around her by the quiet, determined man she had foolishly underestimated. Family, see how life works. Chingwe thought she was the smartest person in the room, but she was playing checkers while Akin was playing chess. He knew everything from the very beginning and planned his move with patience and precision. This is why you should never ever take a good person for granted. If this story shocked you, if it taught you something, please, I need you to do 3 things for me right now. 1. Like this video. Let's get 50,000 likes in the first hour. 2. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We drop powerful real-life stories like this every single day. You don't want to miss the next one. 3. Share this video. Send it to your WhatsApp status, your family groups, your friends. Tag someone who needs to see this. Let's take this story viral. Now, I want to hear from you. What did you think of Akin's master plan? Was it too harsh, or did he do the right thing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until the next story, stay wise, stay strong, and God bless.